Hey friends, Jeff here with mixpractice.com and missionmusician.com. I am super excited, super pumped today because I am starting a 31 mix tips in 31 days tutorial series. And I'm really excited to share this with you. Now, I am not the pioneer of this. As far as I know, Graham over at the Recording Revolution kind of started these 5-minute mix tips with his 5 minutes to a better mix series, which is awesome. So you should go check that out if you haven't seen them. This is going to be kind of my take on it. So let's just jump right in. All right, so this first mix tip that I'm going to give you, I'm not going to show on the screen. All the rest of them I'm going to show on the screen and, show you exactly what to do. This one I'm calling Learn from Others. Okay, so let me give you a little backstory about myself. So when I first started out mixing and recording, I was in a band. We would have band practice every Friday night. I was a young kid, maybe 15, 16, 17. And, as young musicians do, they want to hear themselves on a tape. So, I would throw up some microphones and record the band. However, if you've ever done that, record through a mixing board or just a, tape recorder or whatever, it sounds terrible when you go out to your car to play it. So I was enamored by the fact that I could record individual instruments and mix them together. So my recording started off with like a Tascam 4-track cassette recorder and a few mics. All I had to go by back then, is magazines and books, right? There was no internet back then, and I am dating myself. So now we have the internet and YouTube, and there are tons of mixing tips and tutorials on there, which is awesome. It's incredible. You even have people like Dave Pensato or Chris Lord-Alge giving mixing tips, which leads me to my next kind of point I want to make. I want you to understand who you are learning from when you are learning tips online. And I think it's awesome that you can learn audio tips online. I think it's great. But you also need to take into consideration who you're learning from. Okay, so let's start with someone like myself. So let me kind of tell you the perspective that I come at audio. So a band will record their album or their song in their house or in their basement using, the best possible gear they have. Maybe they have a condenser mic, some SM57s. Maybe they have an 8-channel interface, and they have, their guitars and their drums. And, they may not have new drum heads on their drums. They may not have new strings on their guitars. They may have a very basic amp. But they do the best they can to record their songs. And then they send them off to someone like me to mix them. Okay? And so what I have to do is a lot of times I have to be a little bit more aggressive than someone who comes at audio a different perspective. So let me flip the coin a little bit. Let's think about, someone like, let's just use Dave Pensato for an example. Okay, so the audio that Dave would typically receive, I'm assuming here in this case, would be audio that was recorded in a probably multi-million-dollar studio where the rooms have been treated. They have live rooms, they have dead rooms, they have, specific mics they can use on specific instruments. They have the ability to swap out snares, to have professional drum tuning done to the drums, to swap out guitars, amps, run this, run their specific mic through a specific preamp and compress and EQ on the way in to get the exact sound that they want for the song. Okay? So this is all recorded in a professional studio and then sent off to someone like Dave to mix. Okay, so that is the perspective that Dave is coming at teaching audio from that perspective. So he may not need to get as aggressive as someone like myself, where I am basically EQing tracks that were recorded in a bedroom or a home or a garage, where he is applying processing to something that has probably been EQ'd and high-passed and compressed and ran through a very nice preamp on the way in. Okay, now, let me say this. There is nothing wrong with either teaching one way or the other, okay? You just need to understand who you are learning from, okay? So a lot of my mixing techniques and mixing philosophies have come from people like Chris Lord-Alge, who is my favorite mixing engineer, or from Dave Pensato. I love watching Into the Layer. I think it's awesome. But I understand what he's doing on the screen is pretty much on pristine tracks, if there is really such a thing as pristine tracks. What I mean is very well recorded tracks. So that may not work on my tracks, or I may have to get a little more aggressive with the technique he's using for it to work on my track. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? So I'm not saying that his techniques are wrong, because I would be an absolute fool to say that. The man is a genius. His techniques are awesome. Just what I'm trying to tell you is don't get frustrated if a certain technique doesn't work on your audio. You may have to do it a little bit more aggressively, or maybe even a little less aggressively. You have to find out what works in your specific audio that you are mixing. Okay, so take the advice, learn the concepts, and then apply it to your mix. And learn the concepts that I'm using, learn the concepts that your favorite mixing engineer is using, and just sift through that and find out what works for you for your specific audio. That's all I'm trying to say here. Know who you are learning from and what they are teaching on. Okay, so in general, I am teaching on bedroom recorded tracks. In general, David Pensato is teaching on professionally recorded tracks. Okay, so, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's awesome. I love hearing his advice. So that's all I have for you today. We've gone a little bit over. I did have one final thing I want to say. If you are passionate about mixing, okay, now I'm not talking to the hobbyist out there who mixes, once every 6 months or whatever. I'm talking to the people who are passionate about mixing, who really want to learn how to mix. If you are passionate, you need to join some type of community. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about my community over at Mix Practice that I have with Eric Tarr. There are plenty of other communities out there, such as Graham and Joe Gilder have, what's it called? Dang it, the name escapes me. Dueling, is it Mixers or Mixes? I'm not sure. They have that. David Glenn has some kind of mixing community that he has. There is puremix.net. You can just go online and find mixing communities to be a part of, okay? And you want to find some place that has their own forum and where they are mixing something at least once a month and where you can get information on a daily basis, okay? So if you're passionate about mixing and possibly want to do it for a career, you really need to get into some kind of community where you are learning every single day, okay? So that's all I have for you today. Sorry we went a little bit over today. I'm going to try to keep the rest of these 5 minutes or under. We'll see how that goes. So thanks for watching. I will be coming at you again tomorrow with another mix tip. So I will see you then. Take care. Bye.